My next guest didn't like this deal. He didn't like it then, and he doesn't like it now. Here to fight back against the budget deal is Republican Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson, it's a pleasure, sir. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Well, Judge, thanks for having me on.
The deal didn't save us any money. The deal increased the debt. The deal allowed more borrowing to occur while they were negotiating it than is allegedly saved by it. Why are the Republicans pushing it? And why is Senator Johnson from Wisconsin opposing it?
Well, the main reason I'm not going to vote for it is I ran on a platform of restraining spending in this town and to make sure that we stop incurring the debt and passing this crushing burden of debt onto our children, our grandchildren. We simply can't do it. I mean, we are committing intergenerational theft. It's wrong. It's immoral. It's got to stop. And in the end, I would have been voting for a bill that would have added another $600 to $700 billion worth of debt onto that debt burden. So in the end, I just simply can't vote for this.
Does anybody else besides Rand Paul and Mike Lee in the Senate and the 59 Republicans in the House who voted against this earlier today understand the magnitude of the debt problem? Do they really want to visit on generations as yet unborn what prior presidents and previous Congresses have visited on us? Or do they all think that they can just keep borrowing and spending and borrowing and spending and somehow we'll be prosperous after all this?
No, Judge, I really think the Republicans are united in wanting to bring real fiscal restraint to this nation. The problem is you have to look at the reality of the situation. We only control the House, and any good legislation that the House pass over the Senate is going to be blocked by Senate Democrats and will be vetoed by this president. So I'm not blaming any Republicans for what ends up being the deal here. You got to blame the people that aren't willing to actually seriously cut spending, and that really is the Democrats in the Senate and this president.
Yesterday, this president said that he wants to raise taxes. Isn't that dead on arrival? Won't your Republican colleagues in the House not even allow that to come to a vote or at least kill it in its infancy? And wouldn't every single Republican senator and maybe even a few Democrats that are up for re-election in 2012 vote against raising taxes in the midst of a heavy, deep recession like the one we're in now?
Well, let's face it, it was just, 3.5 months ago where the president was hailing the deal about not increasing taxes, recognizing the fact that increasing taxes would harm economic growth. And, Judge, let's face it, the number one component for getting us out of this fiscal mess that we're in is obtaining economic growth. We do need new, additional revenue into the federal government for deficit reduction, but we need to grow revenue the old-fashioned way, by growing the economy, not increasing tax rates. So no, I don't believe that tax increases have a chance at this point in time, and that's a good thing because we need to achieve economic growth.
In about 2 weeks, everyone in the Congress will have to vote on raising the debt ceiling. I fear that it will pass. I think courageous people like you will probably vote against it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Johnson. But I think the Republican leadership is going to cut some kind of a deal with the president and let him borrow more money. And that $14.3 trillion pit that we're looking into will just get deeper and more difficult to fill.
Well, I think Republicans recognize that this is our greatest moment of leverage in terms of getting real, strong fiscal discipline in here in Washington. And certainly what we're talking about is putting a hard spending cap, a constitutional amendment as well. And that's why, today I just signed up as a co-sponsor to Senator Bob Corker's CAP Act, which will limit spending over time to 20.6% of GDP. Now, I don't really like that number. I would like to see spending lower, but it's a start, and we've got to start somewhere, recognizing the realities that we have a Democratic-controlled Senate and a Democrat in the White House. So, but we have to start establishing the hard fiscal discipline. I certainly would never vote for debt ceiling unless we have one, and it's a number of very strict straitjackets put on the spending process here in Washington.
Got it. Senator Johnson, you're swimming against the tide, but keep doing it. And thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.